Good afternoon, everyone. Please continue enjoying your lunch, but I think in the interest of time, we'll also move on along with the program. Delighted to see everyone here. I'm David Donaldson, and I'm president of the PARCA board this year. And on behalf of the board, I want to welcome all of you to this Governor Albert P. Brewer Legacy Luncheon, which is the final portion of our annual forum this year, which I think has just been immensely successful and really thrilling. And frankly, I mean, most of you were here in the morning as well as at this luncheon. And I think you probably were as excited and enlivened as I was by what we heard this morning. We heard 10 leaders in public education speak brilliantly and beautiful. We saw great partnerships occurring before our eyes. The gains that are occurring through structured literacy programs in the science of reading are encouraging, they're exciting, they're very real. We heard great, compelling examples of the power of pre-K in this state and that burgeoning effort in Mississippi now, copying something from us, which is great, and we're copying things from them, and that's been great too. In education, we know we can do better because we've done it before, and we saw the numbers and the charts and the graphs and the data behind that, and we saw also the path to get there. Science of reading, the science of math, structured learning, focus report support, sustained support, and we also were entertained. I've never heard really a presentation on math where everybody laughed a lot. Thank you, Steve. Steve's from Connecticut and came down here. He does talk super fast. He says he needs an hour in a classroom instead of 45 minutes. So it begs the question how much time we need then in Alabama. We talked about the disturbing disparities in the race gap in learning and reading and in math, but we also heard examples from Javonda at Hoover schools and also in Mississippi where those gaps are closing and how they're closing. And it's not rocket science, it's the sustained focused programs that are already working. And that was really great. I would say that the deck and for all the presentations is on the website, the PARCA website, and also the whole thing was filmed. So the poetic drama that we had at the very beginning of the program, which we all want to see again, it's going to be available to see too. And that was extraordinary. Thank you. Now, a few words about PARCA and its work. PARCA's audience and supporters are composed of policymakers, of informed citizens, and citizens who just want to be better informed, which I suspect that's like all of us. When we think about the array of public policy issues and concerns that affect Alabama, we ask ourselves, what do we know? Or maybe better, what do we know that maybe just ain't so? Or what should we know? What can we know? PARCA is the organization, nonpartisan, in this state that helps Alabamians answer those questions in ways that are constructive. We pursue this mission with projects that explore and shine a light on our challenges and our opportunities. We focus on public education, public finance, government structure, and workforce development, all of which have been factors in shaping our state's history, and how we deal with them now is equally important in determining our future. These same issues were also top of mind for our founder and longtime chairman, the late Governor Albert Brewer. Beginning in 1968, under unique circumstances, when he became Alabama's 47th governor, he instituted reforms that benefit all of us to this day. In just a 33-month period, he developed a code of ethics that ultimately resulted in the formation of the Alabama Ethics Commission. He established the Alabama Commission on Higher Education. He expanded the University of Alabama system, leading to UAB and UAH. He centralized computer systems, and he led the most ambitious education reform initiative in the state's history. After he returned to private life, Governor Brewer and other civic leaders founded PARCA in 1988 with the goal of creating and sustaining a trusted source for nonpartisan policy research. They wanted a clear and a better way to help shape public policy than one conducted in the absence of good information or in an environment of bad information or, God forbid, misinformation. And apparently these were bedeviling matters even in the olden days of 1988. Governor Brewer was very passionate about giving leaders throughout the state the facts and the tools that they needed to keep Alabama moving in the right direction. Now, sometimes we might get a little bit gloomy in thinking about the many yet unsolved problems in our state and in our nation. But PARCA's work over the last 34 years has included a string of successes, quiet successes, and some not as quiet, on the solution side of things. Successes in pre-K funding, smart budgeting initiatives in Alabama cities, cooperative efforts among local governments, infrastructure improvements, the Rolling Reserve Act, ask Ryan about that, workforce development initiatives. These have been the product of much good work by many, with specific examples of leadership that are in this room today. PARCA's work has been instrumental in support of all of these and many other initiatives that are making or will make a difference for Alabama. PARCA's role is not to lead the parades, but we certainly want to help make them possible. We all owe much to the contributions of Governor Brewer. He was a good and kind man. As many of you know, he was a visionary man, and we miss him greatly since he passed away 5 years ago. At this luncheon, we celebrate his legacy, and we challenge ourselves to continue it. I know that this is the commitment of PARCA's board of directors. It's made up of a diverse and influential group of leaders from all over the state, and it's true of PARCA's outstanding staff. I'd like to ask the PARCA staff and board members who are here today to please stand and be recognized. I'd also be remiss if I didn't just do a brief shout out to one Dr. Betsy Bug Holloway, who has just completed a 2-year term as PARCA's board president, and that was because of a 2-year pandemic thing. Ordinarily, it's a 1-year term. Betsy did 2, and her work was brilliant, energetic, steady. She was a great leader for this organization during that challenging time. I wish she could be here today so that we could embarrass her publicly, but she's at Leadership Alabama and could not be here. And then last but hardly least, I want to recognize our policymakers and educators who are here today, our elected and appointed officials and civil servants at all levels of government who play vital roles in our state and in our nation when they choose to enter that arena. We thank you for that. So if you work in local, county, state, or federal government, or in our public schools and institutions of higher education, please stand and accept our thanks. Thank you. Thank you all. Now, in just a few minutes, we're going to hear from Governor Ivey. But first, I want to reintroduce Executive Director Ryan Hankins. Ryan's now in his 7th year of leadership at PARCA. He had big shoes to fill. When Jim Williams retired, he has filled those shoes. Brian, thank you.
Good afternoon again. Thank you all for joining us and for coming back for lunch. I will say, if I'm going to be honest, I'll confess I had an ulterior motive in inviting Steve Limewood to speak. And that was, I knew that after you heard him, you'd look at me and say, well, that guy doesn't speak so fast after all. So thank you for helping me reset the expectations. I'll take just a few minutes and share with you what PARCA has been involved in over these last months. As a nonprofit organization committed to good research and objective policy analysis, it's important that you, our supporters, our contributors, our investors, and our audience really know what we're doing. I know that many of you know a bit about PARCA, may know this project or that project, but may miss the breadth of the things that we do any given year. So I'd like to take a minute just to share with you what 2021 looked like for PARCA. As you know, we are Alabama's first and only nonprofit, nonpartisan, good government research institute, working to improve and inform decision-making of policymakers through our work in data analysis, through policy research, through program evaluation, through technical assistance. And we pursue that with the belief that Alabama can do better when we set our mind to it. We do that through sound public policy. That sound public policy is the interplay of clear policy goals, of competent execution, of well thought out plans, of transparent data, of honest assessment, and consistent revision, learning and improving. All the things you heard this morning about literacy and math also apply to state finance and infrastructure and public health and all the things that make life livable for us in the 21st century. In 2021, we completed 35 different research projects, 27 different policy research and data analysis projects. You see some of the covers of some of our reports that we did either on our own or with others. Research with and for policymakers, directly for people who are making decisions, early childhood, Department of Education, Department of Commerce, city and county leaders, legislators, working with an array of nonprofits and advocacy groups and organizations committed to making Alabama a better place to live and work and to do business, to raise families, and places where our children want to come back to. Some of that work includes our annual public opinion survey, where we learned that 78% of Alabamians believe we spend too little in education. Majorities of every party, race, income, and age group believe we spend too little in education. And 69% say they'd support tax increases for more funding in education. The problem is there's no agreement on what taxes people are willing to increase, which makes our policymakers' jobs all the more difficult. In the spring, working with the BEA, the Business Education Alliance of Alabama, we published Stop the Slide, Start the Climb, looking at best practices of state and the public school system to spend the influx of money for education, how we can use that most effectively to accomplish goals. Targeted investments will result in desired outcomes. We published our annual How Taxes Compare, where we learned that Alabama, or reminded that Alabama collects the lowest per capita amount of state and local taxes of 49 states. This year, we were usually 50th. Tennessee had some changes, and they're 50th in overall tax collections this last year. But it does mean that other states around us enjoy more money to spend. Maybe our tax rate is good, maybe it's not, but it does mean that every other state around us has real dollars more to spend than Alabama does. This work was done in 2021, published early this year, but an analysis of the economic impact of Medicaid expansion. What would this mean for the state, and how will we pay for Medicaid? We learned that over 6 years, Medicaid expansion would generate an average annual net savings of $400 million. It create 20,000 new jobs and have an estimated impact of $1.89 billion, more than enough to pay for the cost of expansion. We published, again, just last month with the BEA, Forging Alabama's Future, which was referenced this morning. And that report really anticipated much of what we heard this morning. And it laid out an 8-point checklist of things that we can do from pre-K to the workforce to accomplish our education goals. There are some copies of that report in the lobby if you've not picked up one. And our ongoing series of deep dives in data analysis. A screenshot here of our data dashboard on the website where you can play to your heart's content, looking at education data, workforce data, healthcare data, finance data. You saw in the back of your program a report of ACAP data. You can dig into that and look at many different subgroups and really get lost in the data if you so choose. Some of you so choose, and some of you call me when this is not done on time because you rely on this data to run your organizations, to lead your schools. So we're proud to partner with you in that work. We did 21 events around the state last year and presentations, including our 2021 annual meeting, Failure to Connect, exploring the challenges we have with broadband. That's on purpose. It's a failure to connect. We had our second speaker series with George Will back in September, the first event that we had in person in 2 years and the first event that many of you had in person in 2 years. We had 51 media citations, which doesn't matter at all, except it points to the fact that leaders and informed citizens around the state are looking to PARCA for information for what matters and what they care about. More than 83,000 web views, people coming back to our website, looking for data, looking for research for their work. We brought on 9 new board members, John Driscoll, Brian Hamilton, Joe Hampton, Abe Harper, Kathy Slosh Jones, Charles Nayland, Stephen Nichols, Stratton Orr, and Bryson Stevens. Who thought I could not do that? There are no notes up here. My staff knew I thought I could not do that. We added 2 new staff members, Candace Stone, who is not with us. Candace is a new mother. Her baby was born on Tuesday, so she chose not to come. But I'm told they've already done some bedtime math, Steve. So little Ivey is on her way. We added Dr. Rachel Cochran, whom you met this morning, who's doing great work with us in evaluation education research. And sadly, we lost our colleague, Don Daly, who, this is a picture of him at this podium 2 years ago. He died suddenly in September, and we miss him greatly. Looking ahead to 2022, we have 32 ambitious research projects across our core areas. Chief among them is our ongoing evaluation of the Literacy Act, and are we doing the implementation to accomplish the goals that we set and we shared this morning, and Dr. Cochran is leading that project for PARCA. We will do our as needed analysis of the amendments on the ballot in November. We will launch in the coming days a new policy dashboard that will allow you to go and explore at the state, county, city, even census tract, census block level, critical data metrics in education, public health, finance, poverty. This is a screenshot of bachelor's degree attainment by county. You can drill down to the census block and look at different data points that you care about. We have new research lines coming on board and new services that we'll be introducing in 2022. You'll have to come back and hear more about that at a later time. And the questions I leave you with are, as I always look to you as our support and our audience, what should we be exploring in 2022, in 2023? We want for our research to be forward-looking, helping us anticipate and avoid challenges, not looking in the mirror, what went wrong, what should we have done differently? And secondly, consider how you will continue to invest in and support PARCA. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ryan. It's now my real honor to introduce our keynote speaker for today's luncheon. Alabama's had 54 governors from 1819 to the present day, and Kay Ivey has served as governor since 2017. She is a person of first Republican elected to the position of state treasurer since Reconstruction, first woman to be elected lieutenant governor in Alabama, first girls state alumnus to be elected to constitutional office in Alabama, and probably not the last, first female Republican governor in Alabama, and only the second female governor, as you know, in our history, but certainly not the last. Kay Ivey grew up in the small and lovely town of Camden, Alabama. She's had really an extraordinary career, from early days working on the family farm to teaching school, to banking, to economic development positions, and then the upward arc in state government, treasurer, lieutenant governor, governor. Governor Ivey has earned a reputation among members of both parties and independents as someone who's not afraid to take on the tough issues and work for common ground solutions in an environment that is not all that easy or forgiving. As one individual with a long experience in Montgomery told me, she's not afraid to make the tough political decisions and then let the chips fall. And she commands great respect as a result. The governor has taken on infrastructure, pre-K funding, the prisons issue, to name just a few of many, and then in navigating the dangerous and uncharted waters of the pandemic, she quickly developed a reputation for keeping her head when many others were struggling with that. People throughout the state and the nation watched the governor advance common sense practices and counsel without veering into either pandemic authoritarianism or its opposite. Governor Ivey, we thank you for your love for and commitment to the state of Alabama, for your record of service to our state, and for being here with us today. Please join me in welcoming the governor.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's always a pleasure to join you here for the Governor Albert P. Brewer Legacy Lunch, and I thank you for inviting me and giving me a few minutes to bring some thoughts to you. Let me just cut to the chase. The single most important issue that we have here in Alabama and across the nation is our students' education. Plain and simple. We need to put a renewed focus on the basics, ensuring our students are proficient readers and making sure we laser in on our efforts on mathematics. And that brings us to our program today, realizing our potential, a plan for reading and math in Alabama. I'm a firm believer in the potential of Alabama, and I'm a firm believer in our students. And that's exactly why I've set the bar high for them, because as all of us in this room know, having a quality education opens up doors for the rest of one's life. I refuse to accept anything less, and Alabamians are flat out tired of complacency. I care about improving education and going back to the basics because I care about students' futures. Recently, on Read Across America Day, I visited Clanton Elementary School and read the book, What Do You Do with an Idea?, to a class of kindergarten students. The book has a very positive message, whether you be 5 years of age or 55. But aside from the lessons learned in the book, I wanted to remind these students that learning to read helps one create endless possibilities while they're still in school and all through life. Education is literally at the root of the future of our state. It's imperative that we laser in on our efforts to ensure that every child has the ability to put their mind to it and reach their dreams, whatever those dreams may be. I launched Strong Start, Strong Finish Education Initiative almost 5 years ago now to integrate Alabama's early childhood education, K through 12 education, and workforce development efforts. My education initiative has produced the most investments in Alabama's K through 12 system in our state's history. But surely there's more work to be done, and we are not relenting anytime soon. Far too many students are not reading or doing mathematics. Now, we're a state who appreciates sports, so I'll explain this in terms of football. Literacy and numeracy are like the blocking and tackling of education. A team simply has to block and tackle, or that team will lose the game and won't be making the trip to the championship anytime soon. I don't think I can put it any simpler. Ensuring our students are proficient at both reading and mathematics is fundamental. Students who don't make the jump from learning to read and learning to do mathematics to reading and doing mathematics to learn, these students will not be ready to explore the boundless career pathways and post-secondary opportunities available in Alabama today. A shortage of effective teachers is the top reason for our struggling schools. And nothing is more critical than ensuring every classroom in Alabama is being taught by an effective teacher. I'm committed to improving Alabama's education, reading and mathematics, proficiency scores, and our National Assessment of Education Program, or NAEP, as known as the nation's report card. And I certainly want to thank Dr. Joe Martin for the Business and Education Alliance of Alabama's new report entitled Forging Alabama's Future, Improving Educational Attainment and Workforce Development. This report provides a vision for aligning education and the economy that is directly aligned with my vision for a strong start, strong finish, and the Success Plus plan, our state's post-secondary education attainment goal. The BEA report provides 8 practical goals for increasing the numbers of students who are starting school ready to learn, reading, and counting on grade level, and graduating from high school prepared for college and career. And it should be noted, y'all, that Alabama reached the national average on the NAEP progress report under Dr. Martin's leadership in 2011. And Dr. Martin is here, and we certainly thank him for his good work and his good report. The Alabama Literacy Act is one of the ways to help our students. It will provide professional learning and reading for every educator and expand access to high quality after-school programs for every student in Alabama. After we collect useful data, implementing all elements of the Alabama Literacy Act will be a must. And let's be clear, our efforts are already underway. Mississippi also implemented a literacy initiative similar to the Alabama Literacy Act. Mississippi has posted gains in both reading and math at both 4th and 8th grade levels. So Dr. Wright, wherever you are, we in Alabama are taking notes, and we're going to be working hard to catch up. We must not only implement the Alabama Literacy Act, we must place the same level of effort in increasing our students' mathematics proficiency that we have rightly placed on literacy. The $7.7 billion in the 22 ETF budget was the largest in Alabama's history for the third year in a row. We provided a 2% pay raise for all teachers and adjusted the salary matrix to give more experienced teachers a 2 to 6% pay raise. This was the fourth teacher pay raise in a row. My $8.3 billion education trust fund request, if passed into law, will be the largest budget in Alabama's history for the fourth year in a row. This year's budget proposal also includes a 4% increase for teachers, and under an enhanced salary matrix, the most experienced teachers could receive up to an 8% increase. This budget also includes strategic funding to help even the playing field for our most struggling elementary schools. We're working to ensure that we don't have any failing elementary schools. How can we expect children to learn to read and then to become college and career ready if they begin their educational journey at a failing school? We have requested $5 million for the governor's mathematics education coaching corps, and we are pleased that Alabama's 2019 mathematics and 2021 English language arts courses of study are aligned to the NAEP framework. These standards were developed by Alabama teachers and members of the business and industry that I appointed. So I certainly want to thank Alabama's business and industry community for supporting our efforts to improve our state's education system. After all, one day these students are our future. Our education system has two customers: our students and the employers who will one day employ them. Aligning our career and technical education programs to business and industry needs is imperative. And it's also time for us to act this year to close the gap between the graduation rate and the college and career readiness rate. What kind of signal does it send to business and industry when more than 10% of our high school graduates in Alabama are not college and career ready? As a component for Strong Start, Strong Finish, I set a post-secondary education attainment goal for Alabama of adding 500,000 credentialed Alabamians to the workforce by 2025 through the Success Plus plan, which means approximately 60% of Alabamians holding post-secondary degree credentials, degrees, and certificates of value. To reach the Success Plus post-secondary education attainment goal, Alabama must maintain the current rates of attainment and significantly increase the number of people who enroll in programs and earn all types of post-secondary credentials. Alabama's 2016 attainment rate was 43.1%, and the current attainment rate is 45.1%. Alabama is also focusing on providing the supportive services needed to help folks persist in the workforce. And I certainly want to thank Dr. Morton, Mr. Ryan Hankins of PARCA, and Chairman Tim McCartney of the Alabama Workforce Council for their visionary work in establishing the Alabama Community E-Directory. The Community E-Directory will extend the reach of our public workforce system by matching job seekers and resources provided by community-based organizations. I certainly want to applaud Dr. Mackey and the Alabama State Board of Education's adoption of a new policy that ensures students complete or opt out of the free application for student aid or FAFSA as it's called, before graduating from high school. This change will help more Alabamians get assistance they need for workforce training and prepare for a career pathway in a good paying job. Too many dollars were left on the table. And I want Alabamians to have access and to utilize every resource that's available to them. Federal Pell Grants are a key part of Alabama's workforce development, as more than 36% of those grants are awarded for certificate and associate degree programs. Yet in Alabama, more than $2 billion with a B in Pell Grants go unclaimed by students each year because they did not apply. Parents or guardians may opt out of completing the FAFSA, and local superintendents of education may waive FAFSA completion criteria on the recommendation of the school's guidance counselor. And over the coming year, we must all work together to increase proficiency in reading and mathematics and to prepare our students for the in-demand career pathways available right here in Alabama. If we do not give our best to make meaningful changes to our education system, we will sure hurt the future of our great state. But folks, I believe in our state like never before. And if we work together to lay the proper groundwork for tomorrow, I'm confident that our best days are ahead of us. So let's not waste a moment. Thank you again for having me here today, and may God continue to bless each of you and the great state of Alabama.
Thank you, Governor Ivey, for your leadership and for your consistently strong support of education. In closing today, thanks to all of you for participating in this forum. And we're going to look forward to seeing you right back here next year. We thank you for your support of the work of PARCA. And thank you for contributing your mind and your voice to this important topic of education that we've discussed today. Finally, I hope you'll join us for our next big event of the year. It's the 2022 Speaker Series featuring, oh no. We're really happy to have James Carville coming. I'm off my script. James Carville. We've got a special little surprise for James. We give commemorative gifts, and he's getting an Alabama jersey. Anyhow, those of you who've heard James Carville speak, either in person or on the television, know that this is an evening that will not be dull. So we're looking forward to seeing you then, September 29th. More information to follow.